So this session is on data snapshot in qlik. You guys can hear me, right? And you can see the screen.
Yes.
Hear
Okay,
you.
thank you. So firstly, can anyone tell me what is a snapshot? Like, what do you understand by a snapshot?
Taking snapshot is like taking a part of data and storing it uh, in the separate qlik.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. So basically, it's essentially a snapshot. If you're looking at it in generic terms, it is essentially a picture which captures a moment. And in computing terms, uh, it is capturing the state of data at any given point of time, right? And when we have a snapshot from different period of time and we look at it over the period of time, then we can track changes like this. All right. Right. So when do we need to create snapshots in qlik? Anyone has any ideas?
Basically, in storytelling.
No, that's a different snapshot we're talking about. That is a feature in qlik sense. But here we are creating data snapshots of, like we're capturing data, we're storing the data.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe capturing the uh, stock amount at a particular time as stock keep on changing.
Yeah, that is actually that is a good use case. Yeah, we have when we use this snapshot method to capture the inventory opening and closing during a month, during the day. So that is a very good use case, actually. Yeah. So let me just give you a scenario. Basically, like let's say my friend borrows money from me. Okay. So last week, Friday, she borrowed 500 bucks. And today she gave me back 300 bucks. So the net from this would be 200, right? Now let's say she borrowed 600 bucks last month, and 2 days later to that she gave me back 200. Now if she asks me how much does she owe me, so I'll say that she owes me 600, which is what she owes me as of today. But so basically calculating outstanding amount, balance, pendency, or as it was mentioned, stock amount. Uh, uh, we are calculating it as it is at this moment. But but like let's say my friend asks me how much did she owe me last month, so then I'll say that it was 400, and it is only possible because I have a mental snapshot of what our last month's balance was, right? So whenever we're calculating backdated outstanding balance or pendency or any information from a data where the previous version is not explicitly available, then you can create a snapshot in qlik. All right. Okay. So now, what would be the benefit of looking at backdated information? Like, what are the use cases? Why do people look at backdated pending data? As it was already mentioned, it is used to calculate the stock amount, so we can use it to calculate previous month's stock amount as well. So what else? What else can we do with backdated outstanding information, outstanding or pending information?
We can measure profit ratio.
Okay.
Compare sales.
So with sales and everything, yeah, okay, that's all right. All right, yeah, that's actually fine. So I'll just share some use cases that I have come across actually. So like you mentioned, compare sales. So if I'm taking an example of B2B customers, where there is there is sales, and then there's invoices, and then there's collections. So uh, we for sales and collections, that is directly available. Like if I want to, I have my transaction date. If I want to go back and see some previous month's data, uh, then I can just directly select and get that information. But if I have to select outstanding information, then I have to, so like let's say if I have to, I'm in July, I have to check June's outstanding information. So for that, not only I need the invoices for June, no, not only do I need the invoices for the collections for June, but I also need invoices from backdated from previous months. Like I need invoices from May and invoices from April and collections from April. So on the basis of that, because I can have collections for an invoice of April or Jan or something. So to determine the outstanding collections, we'll need to create a snapshot. And why do we need to create that such a snapshot? We can it can help the sales team drive the collections better. Like they can recognize the defaulter customers, and they can like use this information to drive it better. And if they want to check how long has it been pending for, then also they to create aging buckets, then also they need this. Okay. uh, I've come across this snapshotting use case in insurance as well, where the policies are. I don't know if you guys understand insurance that much, but the policies are basically logged and then issued by the underwriting department. So that the policies that are pending to be issued, they can be pending for different reasons, and we can monitor this delay to understand like how is the underwriting department working, right? uh, then like delivery services, if we talk about Amazon or something, they can track pending orders, and through that they'll be able to handle recognize their defaulters, like defaulting shipments. And orders could also be pending because the inventory was not enough. They might not have enough stock, right? And similarly, inventory was already discussed as a use case. So to calculate inventory, to calculate anything related to inventory, we do need the closing and opening for the period uh, on during which we are looking at the inventory. I also saw one use case in HR as well, because so in usually in HR department you have a full monthly consolidated data. Sorry, full master basically, and there is a current status. Usually, this is what happens with employee master. So if I have to calculate the number of employees in the current month, I can just count the number of active employees. But if I have to calculate the previous month number of employees, I will either need the previous versions of the same master, or I can use the joining date and the leaving date to calculate it. Okay, so now we come to data snapshots using qlik, and let's just jump to the how to part using a scenario, right? So there's this company which supplies office materials to various businesses, and they started in January this year. Now, because of the whole pandemic situation, they their collections is becoming lower. So their management decided to monitor their monthly collections and outstanding at each customer end, so they can it can help the sales team drive the collections. All right. And we have the invoice data, which is for which the granularity is at the invoice number level. Okay, so basically the amount billed for each amount, we have that. For each invoice, we have that. And then we have the collection data, which is at the customer level. And the amount shown is the amount received from the customer but it's not there against each invoice, which is fine in this case because we only need to uh, compute outstanding at the customer level. Okay, so all right. So I'll show you this data in the Excel. So I have this data here, right? Now I've appended the data and aggregated it on the customer level. Here, this is my collection, and then this is my invoice. Right. Now, if I have to calculate the outstanding, I can aggregate the entire collection and invoice, and my invoice till date minus my collection till date would give me my outstanding. Right. So for Aqua Supplies here, my outstanding is 49,000. And if similarly, if I have to calculate outstanding for a previous month, I can just simply take the date till that month. Right. So if I have to calculate it for a month, till May, let's say, I have to take dates before and equal to May, and I'll get the outstanding. So for Aqua Supplies, the outstanding till May was 74,099, right? And this exact thing we can do in qlik front end using set analysis. Okay, so I'll show you an application here. So this is one of the ways of calculating the outstanding amount. All right, so now just I'll show you my data model. Here as well, I have aggregated the data on the customer level, and I have used a island calendar here. With island, basically, it's not connected to the main table. It's not linked to the main table. So why have I used an island calendar here? Because we are using different dates in this data, right? Okay. I have also created a variable max date, which is the maximum date of the calendar, or the calendar that we've created. We, why of the calendar? It's because we are going to make selections using the calendar, right? So here we can see the maximum date of the calendar, which is the end of the current month, right? And as I select a different month, you can see the maximum date is changing. Okay, so for those of you who might not know what set analysis is, basically set analysis offers a way of defining a set of data values, which would be different from what a normal set would be based on the current selections. So for example, if I'm selecting March, my data is basically selecting the March data, right? My normal current selection would say that select the March data. But using set analysis, like let's say I want to see the data for the entire quarter. So using set analysis, I can define that whatever month I'm selecting, I want the data to be shown from the beginning of the quarter till the end of the quarter. So if I'm selecting March, it will show data for Jan, Feb, March. That is how set analysis works. All right. So again, like how we saw in the Excel, for calculating the outstanding amount till date, my invoice amount should be less than equal to the max date, right? My till date is defined by max date. So my invoice amount, to calculate that, my invoice date should be less than equal to the max date. For my collected amount, again, my collection date should be less than equal to the max date. And that is how, so my invoice till date minus my collection till date would be my outstanding till date. right? So let's just check the syntax for this. All right, so you can see invoice amount till date, where the invoice date is less than equal to the max date, and collection amount till date, collection date is less than equal to the max date, right? This is the syntax. Okay, so let's just check one example as well. Aqua supplies, we already checked that. So till date, the outstanding amount is 49,000, right? And when I'm selecting May, the outstanding amount is coming out to be 74,999, right? Okay, so that is basically one way of doing this. The problem with this method is actually like, this is a major problem with it, that when the data is really large, the data volume is too large, then using this method would reduce the performance of the application. Like it will really slow it down. So that is something that you need to consider if you are if you want to do this method. Okay. So another way of looking at outstanding is that, outstanding can be looked as closing balance, right? So and closing balance. Okay. So closing balance would be my opening balance, right? If I'm looking at closing balance at the end of a period. So the opening balance at the beginning of the period, invoices plus the invoices during the period minus the collection during the period. So this is how this is how to calculate how we calculate outstanding balance. Sorry, closing balance. So let's just go to the Excel again to understand this better. Okay, here I have aggregated the opening balance. Here I have aggregated the data at the customer and month level. Right. So for every customer, whatever transactions I have for each month, I have the collection amount and the invoice amount aggregated at that level. Right. So I've already calculated the opening balance and the closing balance here, and I'll show you how to do that very soon later. But here I wanted to point out something. So, like again, let's look at Aqua Supplies only. So, at the end of June, it's showing the closing balance to be 49,000, and we already checked that this is what the outstanding balance for Aqua Supplies is, right? But you can see here, like there's no July, right, for Aqua Supplies. So if I select July, the closing balance for the entire company is coming out to be 38,000. When we know from previous example, when we know from previous example that the outstanding amount for July, the till date, it should be somewhere around 3,18,000, right? Similarly, like if I select May, let's say, already check May, I'm getting these records, right? If I check it from here, this is where we're checking the data for May, for the outstanding for May. You can see that clearly there's certain customers that are missing, right? Like there's no first victory in this in this filtered out data. Then there are other customers missing as well. So basically we have missing dates in this scenario. So because the customers with outstanding balance in the previous months, right? There are customers like first chance and no first victory and no chance, which had outstanding balance in some previous month. They could have it in April or Feb or something, but they don't have any transactions during the month of May. So that is why they are not present in this scenario. So when we try to calculate outstanding balance directly by using directly by aggregating and then calculating the opening and closing balance, we end up with incorrect data because we'll have missing, not exactly incorrect, but we'll have like we won't have a clear picture. So because there are missing months or missing dates. So I know you guys have learned this recently. So any ideas what do we do when there are missing dates in our data?
Master calendar.
Yes, exactly. Right. So you guys have recently learned how to use master calendar, and in this case, we're going to use this. We're going to make the calendar in the script itself, and not use it in the data model. We're only going to use it to insert dates into the data itself. Okay. So in this case, we are going to generate our master calendar using while statement. Okay, so if you guys, if any of you has had previous experience in coding, you know what this statement does. So for those of you who don't know what while statement is, it's a very powerful statement basically. So it allows you to repeat a code, execute a code repeatedly based on a condition. So as long as the condition is being fulfilled, the code gets executed. And the moment the condition is false, then the code stops and it moves on to the next code statement. So it moves on to something else. All right. So for any while statement, I need to it's a loop, right? So I need to know when to start and when to stop. Right. So I need to know where to initialize and when to stop. So for example, right, I am let's say I do 10 push-ups a day. So when I start, my initial count is 0, right? And for every push-up, I add 1 to my count. And the moment I do 10, I am done for the day, right? So so this is how the while statement will also work. So in this case, in calendar's case, we need to figure out for a calendar, we need to figure out a start date or like a from date and an end date, like till date, so from and till, right? So basically that takes us to the now we're talking about how to do this in the backend, how to create snapshots in backend. So the first step would be your calendar initialization, right? So I'll go back to my Excel. All right. Okay. So to do that, I have aggregated my data. I had already aggregated my data. I had collection and invoice data and outstanding. Also, I computed the maximum collection date and the minimum invoice date. Now, for my starting date, um, like if I have transactions, if my company started, I'm first going to get invoice transactions, then I'll get collections, right? So I can safely say that my minimum invoice date is going to be the date where my transaction started. There's nothing before that, right? So I can take the minimum of the invoice date, the overall invoice date, right? So, and that can become my from date. Like this is where I have to start, right? Uh, Now for and which actually makes sense because it's coming out to be 2nd Jan, which is when the company started. So obviously there's no transaction before that. Now for the end date, we can keep the end date till the current period, like what current months, like today, or use today minus 1, right? And or because we need monthly data, we can also use month end, right? So basically, unless specified, it is a good practice to keep the end date till like your current period, right? It avoids unnecessary data. So right, okay. So we can directly take today minus 1 or this to basically further avoid unnecessary data. Uh, so now we know that there is outstanding. We can see that there is outstanding. But if it's not there, then we don't really need the records. We don't really need to keep the records where the outstanding is showing as 0, right? So for every customer, I can compute a separate max date, right? All I have to do is put a condition, like, put a check that if the outstanding is equal to 0, then whatever my max collection date is, that would be the last time they needed to transact, and then the outstanding was 0. So that would be my date. And if it's not outstanding, if the outstanding is not 0, then I can put today. Like right for now, I'm going to take today. Okay, so and using this, I can compute my maximum date, which is coming up to be today, basically. So these two here, they will give us the from date, which is for 2nd Jan, and the to date, which is today, right? And because we're doing monthly data, I'm going to use month ends. So 31st Jan and 31st July, right? So now that we know our maximum and minimum date, we can start creating a calendar using the while statement. I'm going to show it to you here so you understand how the data flows. Okay. So here I have my from date, which is 31st Jan 2020. And my till date is 31st July 2020. Right. So this is my initial dates. So when I'm creating a calendar, I'm basically generating dates between this period, right? So based on the iteration. So like if my condition is fulfilled, whatever my from date is, that becomes my date, right? So to generate it between, to keep it between the two dates, all I have to do is check whether the from date is less than equal to the till date. If it is, then my from date becomes my date. Otherwise, it will give me a false thing. Otherwise, it will give me an error, right? So here the condition is getting fulfilled. So now the code will move to the next iteration. Right. So this one set of record is one iteration. Right. Now the next month I am adding 1 month to my from date. This will remain same and this will come here. Here also it is getting fulfilled. Now we can move on to the next iteration. We can check it for a few dates. All right. So you see at the 7th iteration, okay, this is the 7th iteration. After the 7th iteration, I'm getting my condition is becoming false, right? So this is so the while it's the moment the condition is false, the code will stop executing. So at this point of time, it will not create any of these lines. This will be these lines will not be created. This will be the end result of this statement, right? And so basically, this is how this is the process of creating a calendar using while statement. And this I wanted to show you how the data would look, right? So now we can look at the script for this. Okay, right. So here I have my transactions. I've picked it up as it is, as I had mentioned earlier. And here I'm computing my aggregated data to calculate the maximum collection, minimum invoice, and outstanding. And if my outstanding is 0, my max date is collection date. Otherwise, it's today. So using the dates that here, so the maximum, the minimum of my invoice would become my from date, and the maximum of my max date would become my till date, right? Now using the calendar, so we'll use the while statement as a clause at the end, right? That's where we put the condition. Okay. And whatever I'm putting as in the load statement, that will get loaded. Right. So here the counter, like I said, for I'm adding one count to my push-ups, right? So here in this case, the counter is given by my iter number. So iter number is a function that is used with while statement, which gives which returns the number, the iteration number of the while statement, right? So it starts with one. So basically, I'm using add month. So whenever in the first iteration, I'm adding 0, so it will be 31st July, right? Second iteration, I'm adding 1 month to the from date. So it will be 29th Feb. So that is how it is going to check it and run it. All right. Okay. So my next step here is doing an outer join with customers. Basically, I have to do an outer join with the customer so that all the applicable dates, I have all the I have a combination of all my customers with all the applicable dates, right? And this is an example of customers, but for any other example, for whatever granularity that you need to create the outstanding for, you'll need to outer join it with the calendar. Okay. Additionally, I also brought in the maximum and minimum date that was earlier computed so that I can do step 4 as well of removing unnecessary data. Okay. So here I have show you to you in the Excel first. So I have my outer, I've already done the outer join. I've brought in the customer and min and max date information onto my calendar, right? Um, okay, so now in this case, if we see this example of the customer communities, we see that the minimum and maximum date is for June. So all the data, all the dates before June are pretty are not to be used. Like there's no need for that those records, right? And similarly, if I go and check some other, yeah, okay. So for graphic master, I see that the minimum date is Jan and the maximum date is Feb. So after Feb, basically there was no transaction. That means that the outstanding was 0. So I don't need I don't need the records from after Feb because I know it's coming to be 0, right? At least for now, I don't need it. So I can put a condition where where I check that the date is in between minimum and maximum date, right? So if the condition, all I have to do is check whether my date is greater than equal to my minimum date, and that my date is less than equal to my maximum maximum date, which is basically the month end. Sorry. Okay. So wherever the condition is fulfilled, it will come as 1, and wherever it's not fulfilled, here it will come as 0. And then I can use this condition to remove the cases where to remove the unnecessary data basically. Okay. And to execute this in qlik, it is pretty easy. Okay. All I have to do is simple outer join customer max date minimum date, and then put the condition that I've put there, put the condition at in the where clause. Right, this is how you execute it. Pretty easy. Right. So moving on, my next step is aggregate and join transaction. All right. Okay, so I already had the aggregated data for the aggregated data at a customer and month level. So all I have to do is use this customer and month and join it to the calendar that we've created, right? So here I've joined it. It's pretty straightforward in Qlik as well. Or all you do is aggregate it at the customer and month end level and then join it to the calendar. All right. Okay. This step is pretty easy. So basically, these steps, it is pretty much essentially just 3 steps where you create a calendar, join, and then create the opening and closing balance. But I've distributed the steps so that it is easier to understand, right? So last 2 steps are sorting and then finally creating the opening and closing balance. So first we need to sort the data because to create the opening and closing, we need to check the previous version of the data as well. Like if I'm in Feb, I need to check the previous Jan outstanding as well. So that's why we need to sort the data. So in this case here, it's already done. And in Qlik, you do that using order by, right? Additionally, I also ensured that so when you join and when there is no transaction for a particular month, then you get blank, right? When you're doing left join, right? So this a blank value will create problems for us when we are uh, creating the opening and closing. So that's why I've put a condition that if my collection amount is zero, then if my collection amount is null, then it should come as zero. Otherwise, uh, whatever it whatever the collection amount is. And similarly, I've done that for invoice as well. All right. So now that our data is set in the way it has to be, now we can create the opening and closing balance. Okay. So my opening, first I check if my previous if my customer name is equal to the previous name. So this way I can check if whether it's my first record or no. So if it's my first record, if it's not my first record, then whatever the previous month's closing would be, that would become my current closing, current opening. But if it's the first record of that particular customer, then my opening then my opening will be zero. Right. Now, closing, as we already know, closing is equal to opening plus my invoice during the period minus my collections during the period. Okay. There we go. So that is how we calculate closing balance. So let's just check Aqua Supplies. For July, now we're getting the July value. For July, it's coming as 49,000. For June also, it is 49,000. And May, as we know, it's coming as 74,999. Right? So this is fine. And to do this in Qlik, to check the previous values and to do this, implement this in Qlik, you need to know a function called peak function. So again, for those of you who don't know what this does, basically it helps you get the value for a particular field, basically of a particular cell, right? So it will find the value in a field for a table, for a row that has already been loaded, that it's already in the cache. So so basically, like in this case, my I'm picking up the total amount, which is amount plus the previous amount. So in this case, previous amount would be 300 of the previous this thing, previous record, previous row, right? that is how the peak function works. And to check the previous name of the customer, like we checked in Excel, and pick up the previous values, we need to, in qlik, basically, we need to use peak function. In this case, you can specify the row number. You have to specify the field that you have to pick the value from. You can specify the row number and the table name, but if none of that is mentioned, by default, it is going to pick up the previous value of the record. So in this case, like if nothing is mentioned, it will automatically pick up the previous value, which is 300, right? And to do this, to implement what we did in Excel, in qlik, we need to use this function. Okay, so let's just check the remaining script then. Okay, so here I'm ensuring that my collection amount and invoice amount is not blank. If it's blank, then it comes as 0, so that I don't have errors in creating my opening and closing. And here I'm checking, so basically I'm checking if my current invoice account is equal to the peak invoice account, which is my previous record. So that way I'm checking if it's the first value. If it is, then my previous previous month's closing will become my current month's opening. And if it's the first value, then my opening is 0, right? And similarly in closing, this is my so I'm calculating the opening plus my invoice amount minus collection, right? So that is how we do it, right? And I've already run the data. So here we can check that, again, for aqua supplies only, I'm checking that July is coming as 49,000, May it's coming as 74,999. So yeah, that is how this opening and closing is made. And it pretty much works the same way. You can put in your data model, add it to your data model, and then you can compute your outstanding customer-wise outstandings and customer-wise invoice and collection, right? And additionally, you can also use this to monitor the cumulative outstanding for a customer, right? So I can see like how the outstanding is going in this case, right? For different months. So yeah, that is how it's done. All right. So this is what this is how data Snapshot is taken in qlik. So basically, this is what we have to do. So if you guys have any questions, if you didn't understand anything that was said, just we have 10 left. We have like quite some time left in the meeting, so we can discuss that now. Is there anything that was not clear to anyone? We can talk about that. Well, either it was all clear or I'm guessing nobody understood anything. So like, just give me some sort of acknowledgement. That'd be nice. So I guess no one has any questions. So in that case, I think we can end this session. I am okay. My email address is shubhangi.m@teamcomputers.com. So if you have any questions regarding this that you don't want to ask here, or like if you're doing it, if you're implementing this on your client or in your assignments, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. All right.